Hi, my name is John, and I'm a skydiving instructor. At 35, I can boast more than 1,000 jumps and a boundless love for the sky. It's not just a job for me, it's a calling, a way of life. I'm married to a wonderful woman named Katie, who is 10 years younger than me. We've been together for 7 years now, and I can say we have a strong marriage. Sure, there are disagreements and quarrels sometimes, like everyone else, but we always find a way to make up. My mother-in-law Susan is a whole other story. She's 55, but looks 40 at most. A widow, always taking care of herself, working out. Her figure is to die for. Men turn their heads as she walks by. I won't lie, I've caught myself admiring Susan more than once, but I always kept myself in check, realizing that this is not just a forbidden fruit, but a real taboo. And besides, I love Katie and wouldn't want to ruin our marriage. Everything changed when one day Susan declared that she wanted to skydive, and not just jump, but have me as her personal instructor. Katie didn't really like this idea, but I convinced her that there was nothing wrong with it. After all, it's my job to teach people to jump. And so, Susan became my student. We spent a lot of time together preparing for the jump. I explained the theory to her, showed her how to properly pack a parachute, practiced all the necessary skills with her. I won't lie, I enjoyed our lessons. Susan turned out to be not only a beautiful but also a quick-witted student. She picked up everything on the fly with half a word, and she constantly joked, laughed, flirted with me. At first I tried to stay within the bounds, to respond restrainedly and in a businesslike manner, but gradually my defenses were melting. More and more often I caught myself admiring Susan, her chiseled figure, the grace of her movements, waiting impatiently for our lessons. Katie seemed to suspect something. She started pestering me with questions about how Mom was doing, if I was being too soft on her. I laughed it off, said everything was under control, but my soul was clawing at the cats. I really was starting to feel more than just a professional interest in Susan. And then, the day of the jump came. Susan passed all the tests successfully, and I gave the go-ahead. We agreed that we would jump in tandem. I would be attached to her. It's safer for a beginner that way. As we drove to the airfield, there was a strange atmosphere in the car. Susan was uncharacteristically silent, only giving me enigmatic glances. I was nervous too. A premonition of something irreversible tickled my nerves. The plane gained altitude. It was time to jump. We stood by the open hatch, holding each other tightly. I could feel the heat of Susan's body even through the thick jumpsuit. Her breath tickled my neck. My heart was pounding like crazy, and not at all from fear. "Are you ready?" I shouted, drowning out the roar of the engine. Susan only squeezed my hand tighter and stepped forward, pulling me with her. The airstream picked us up, spun us around. Delight, delight, and pure adrenaline. We were flying towards the ground, tightly entwined bodies. I opened the parachute, and we were jerked hard. The lines stretched, and then I realized that something was wrong. Too tightly stretched. Looking up, I was dumbfounded. The lines were tangled and starting to twist. This was damn dangerous. You could easily go into a tailspin. The prospect of smashing to smithereens suddenly became frighteningly real. Susan understood everything too and screamed in fright. I hugged her tighter and tried to calm her down. "Hold on. Everything will be fine. I'll fix it now." Overcoming the wild fear, I reached for the reserve parachute. Unclip the main one, pull the ring, jerk. Got it. The reserve chute opened, and we rushed to the ground again, but smoothly and evenly this time. My heart was pounding like crazy. The shivering Susan pressed against me. We both needed to calm down and recover from the experience. But my body was reacting to Susan's closeness in a way that wasn't appropriate for an instructor. We landed without incident, but we were both pretty shaken up. We were silent the whole way back, digesting what had happened. But I knew I had to talk to Susan to make sure she was okay. When we pulled up to the house, I mustered up the courage and suggested, "Listen, maybe we should go somewhere, have a drink, relax. It's been one hell of a day." Susan stared at me for a long moment, as if deciding something for herself, and then she smiled and nodded. "Yes, you're right. We could use some tension relief. Let's go. I know a good place not far from here." The place turned out to be a cozy bar with subdued lighting and soft music. We settled at a table and ordered cocktails. At first, the conversation didn't flow. We just sipped our drinks in silence and exchanged glances. But gradually the alcohol did its job and we relaxed. We started discussing the jump, sharing impressions. It turned out we both perceived this experience the same way, as something exciting, thrilling, almost intimate. One thing led to another, and now I'm telling Susan about my fears, about how hard it is for me to be strong 24/7. And she's stroking my hand and saying I was a real hero today, and looking at me in a way that makes my blood start to boil. I don't remember how we ended up at the hotel. I guess the idea of getting a room seemed genius to both of us. And now we're kissing, tearing each other's clothes off. Passion, adrenaline, and alcohol. An explosive mixture. Everything that was happening seemed unreal, as if in a haze. Hot kisses, feverish caresses, whispers and moans. I had never felt such strong desire, such intoxication from intimacy. We made love like crazy, as if for the last time, taking what was ours, not thinking about the consequences. And only then, lying in each other's arms, did we begin to realize what we had done. In the morning I woke up with a heavy head and a soul-eating sense of guilt. God, what have I done? Cheated on my wife with her mother, betrayed all my principles. How can I live with this burden now? Susan looked depressed too. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, crumpling the sheet in her hands. Seeing that I was awake, she smiled guiltily. "Good morning. Looks like we did something really stupid last night," I grunted unhappily. "Stupid is putting it mildly. We destroyed everything, our friendship, my family. Now nothing will ever be the same." "So what do we do now?" I asked, afraid to hear the answer. Susan sighed and looked me in the eye. Her gaze was determination mixed with desperation. "You have to tell Katie everything. She has a right to know." I imagined my wife's face when she found out about my betrayal. Tears, pain, anger. Will she be able to forgive me? I doubt it. I can't even forgive myself. I spent the whole day preparing for the conversation. I ran through options in my head looking for words. I knew this moment would change everything. It would either destroy our family or give us hope for forgiveness. When Katie got home from work, I sat her down on the couch and started talking. Falteringly, confusedly, choking on tears. But honestly, I told her everything. About my attraction to Susan, about what happened after the jump, not daring to look up. "Forgive me if you can," I finished. "I'm so guilty before you." Katie was silent, and that silence hurt more than the worst reproach. Finally, she took a deep breath and said, "You and my mother. My God, how could you? How could you both?" Her voice broke into sobs. I tried to hug my wife, but she pushed me away. There was so much pain and resentment in her eyes that it became hard to breathe. "Leave, right now. I need to be alone." My heart sank. That's it. The end of our marriage, our family, and it's all my fault. A black hole gaped open in my chest, threatening to swallow me whole. The next few months were the hardest of my life. Katie filed for divorce, and I didn't resist. Dividing property, explaining to friends and family, it was all hard. I completely immersed myself in work, taking any shift just so I wouldn't have to return to an empty, rented apartment. Friends sympathized, supported me, but no one could fill the gaping void inside. Susan and I hardly talked. It was too hard and embarrassing to look each other in the eye. And what is there to say? The guilt for the destroyed family cannot be smoothed over with any words. But life went on, and somehow imperceptibly the wounds began to heal, the pain dulled to a dull ache. I began to learn anew to rejoice in the little things, to make plans, even if alone. A year after the divorce, I decided to call Susan. We needed to talk, to dot all the I's, and maybe try to start over with a clean slate. We met in the park, awkwardly hugged. Susan had grown more beautiful. The old mischievous sparkle had returned to her eyes. We walked for a long time, talking about everything, the past, the present, the future, and the more we talked, the clearer I realized, yes, this is my woman, the one I want to spend the rest of my days with. I won't say that our relationship developed smoothly. There was too much pain and resentment between us, between our families. At first, Katie didn't even want to hear about me and her mother seeing each other. But time heals all wounds. Gradually, day by day, the relationship improved. Susan and I no longer hid our feelings. We made plans together. It turned out we had a lot in common. A love of adventure, a sense of humor, an ability to cherish the moment. Katie softened too, met a good guy, started a new life. We were able to have a heart-to-heart talk, to forgive each other. Of course, the old closeness can't be brought back, but at least we stopped being enemies. 2 years after our memorable jump, Susan and I got married. A quiet ceremony just for our own. Susan adopted my and Katie's daughter, Annie, became a real grandmother to her. Life entered a new track. Of course, we still have to deal with sidelong glances and gossip. Not everyone can understand how a former mother-in-law could become a wife. But we don't really care. The main thing is that we are happy together. You know, when I look back now at this whole crazy story, I can't help but marvel at the vicissitudes of fate. You never know where and how love will catch up with you. The main thing is not to be afraid of it, to be honest with yourself and your loved ones. That parachute jump changed my life forever. It gave me not only thrills, but also true love, a kinship of souls. And even though I had to go through pain and loss for it, it was worth it. Now Susan and I conquer the sky together, literally and figuratively. She recently got her instructor's license too, so now we're partners in everything. Jumping together, flying together, building our little happiness together. What else do you need? I'm happy that back then, 4 years ago, I took a chance and listened to my heart. Yes, I hurt my loved ones. Yes, I made mistakes. But I found wings behind my back and the meaning of life. And now I can say with all responsibility, it was worth it. So that's the story, friends. A story about how one jump can turn your whole life upside down, about shock, pain, despair, and about the incredible, fantastic happiness that sometimes awaits us where we least expect it. Fly, love, live here and now, seize the moment, listen to your heart. And then perhaps the same miracle will happen to you. Real, bright, dizzying, like a parachute jump. Believe me, I know. Always yours, John Cooper, conqueror of the sky and hearts. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.